out of year 4. This week we're going to be looking at fractions, and particularly equivalent fractions. This is using our knowledge of fractions to find fractions that are the same as other fractions. We're particularly focusing on this because this skill is massively important in a lot of other things that we do within fractions. So both our lessons this week will be on equivalent fractions and different ways that we can find them and making sure we understand what they are. Okay, let's try using a physical representation of equivalent fractions first. So what you need to do is get 2 strips of equally sized paper. They must be the same size overall, because we know that in order for our fractions to be compared, the whole has to be the same. For strip number 1, I want you to fold it in half and then in half again. And that, when you open it out, you should have 4 equal parts, and that will be your quarters. Then with the second strip, I want you to fold it in half again, fold it in half again. When you open it up, you should find you have 8. Can you find any equivalent fractions within those? Have a go now. So what you should see is when you lay them down and you just look at where the fractions are, you should see that each quarter is the same as 2/8. So 1 quarter is equivalent to 2/8. 2 quarters is the same as 4/8, and 3 quarters is the same as 6/8. You'll also notice that the whole thing, 4 quarters, is the same as 8/8. This is a nice, easy way to show a concrete way of showing equivalent fractions. Okay, so what we have here is a fraction wall. This is a very nice, easy way to show different fractions and still having them have the same total. So the one amount is the same in all of them. So using this, can you see if you can find any fractions that are equivalent to 1/2? Pause now and have a go. Okay, so what you should see is that you can draw a line down, like I've just done now, through 1/2, this bit here, and pull it all the way down. And any other fraction that ends at the same point, you know is equivalent. It's the same as that half. So the same as the half, we have 2 quarters, 3/6, 4/8, 5/10, 6/12. This works even with different fractions. So for example, if I was trying to find fractions that were equivalent to 2/5, I can pull my line down, and where it crosses another line, I can see that I have equivalent fractions. So these 2/5 are the same as 4/10. This is a nice, easy way to find equivalent fractions. Okay, let's see if we can do that using a fraction wall. Here's a couple of questions, and I've already set up a fraction wall which includes the fractions we're going to be looking at, which are halves, quarters, and 8ths. Pause now and have a go. Okay, let's see if we can find the answers then. So first it says 1/2 is equal to how many quarters? We look at 1/2, look where it ends, pull that down to get to the quarters and see how many quarters you have there. We have 2. It also says 1/2 is the same as how many 8ths? So we look along 1/2, pull it down to get to the 8ths, and we count how many we have, and we have 4. The same over here, 2 quarters is the same as 4 what? So this is making you think a little bit different because you have to think about what fraction you're looking at. But here's 2 quarters. I need 4 of one of the other fractions to make it. I've only got 1/8, 1/2, which is the same, but I do have 4/8, so it must be 4/8. 2/8 is the same as how many quarters? 1, 2 is the same as 1 quarter. I have this one over here, which is how many eighths is the same as 3/4 or equals 3/4. This is nice because it kind of highlights what we mean by the equal sum, which just equal sign, which just means whatever is on one side is the same as what's on the other side. This little symbol means equivalent. It means the same as. It doesn't matter what's on either side as long as they are the same. So 3/4, 1, 2, 3. How many eighths is that? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And finally, we have 2 halves, which are the same as how many quarters, how many eighths. Well, 2 halves is the whole bar. So in that case, it must be 4 quarters and 8 eighths. And here we have our questions for this lesson. First off, I've given you a fraction wall, but haven't labelled all the fractions in it. So your first job is to label those fractions, thinking about how many there are in each. Then using that fraction wall, you can answer these questions. I've also put some questions in here which relate to our knowledge of fractions. See what you can come up with in these fractions and see if you can draw a diagram to support your answer. Have a go, see what you can do, and I'll see you in the next video.